I have the distinguished honor for our guest for this program to have with me Honorable Deputy Minister of Education, Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa, is here this evening. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
We are glad to have you on Policy Desk.
I'm happy to be on.
And viewers, this program is proudly sponsored by GN Bank, the People's Bank. With GN Bank, GN Bank provides a lot of money remittance services, Western Union, MoneyGram, RIA, in all its branches all over the country. With GN Bank, you can start with just 50 pesos. You can open an account with just 50 pesos and you can just start an account. This program is also proudly sponsored by GN Investment, Gold Coast Fund Management, and Coconut Grove Hotels, offering you members worth repeating Accra, Elmina, and Obuasi. Honorable, welcome.
Thank you.
How has government taken the FQ policy into action? How soon can we get this materialized?
As you do know, FQ is not only a policy which was formulated by a government, but it also found its way in our 1992 Republican Constitution. We should tell you how serious the people of this country consider free, compulsory, universal basic education. I would posit that to be fair to the implementation of FQ, we have made a lot of giant strides. First of all, we have been recognized as a country that has achieved the Millennium Development Goal 2 that was set up by the United Nations 15 years ago. 15 years ago, before, just around the time FQ was coming into force, we did not attain free compulsory, we did not have universal basic education in our country. Now we have met that target, MDG 2. We have managed to keep our children in school. The transition rate is now quite impressive. We have, over the years, successive governments have introduced interventions that have helped us to achieve considerable success in our FQ policy agenda. You can recall the capitation grant, which increased enrollment, the school feeding program, which increased enrollment and allowed for children to be more retentive in school and to concentrate on studies, the free exercise books, free textbooks program, the free uniforms program, the free bus ride for school kids, all of these interventions by successive governments, including making the school environment a more comfortable place, more convenient place for the school child. The elimination of school under trees intervention, which has so far seen the elimination of about 1,700 schools under trees. All of this has helped that as we speak in Ghana today, we have 5.46 million school children in school at the basic level, which is about 20% of our population. Quite impressive. Having said that, I must indicate also that latest interventions like the abolishment of the shift system has also helped. We observed when we rolled out all of these earlier interventions that school children and their parents began to make excuses. So you meet them in the morning on the streets and they say that, no, I'm going to school in the afternoon. You meet them in the afternoon school time, they say, oh, I was in school in the morning. So we took a decision to abolish the shift system. And I can inform you that in the Greater Accra region, we've successfully abolished it. There are a few districts across the country that, because of lack of facilities, have not been able to abolish it. But we have a program that by the end of 2015, this year, we should have abolished entirely.
Throughout the country?
Throughout the country.
Yeah, but Honorable, following that, a huge amount of our budget is allocated to education.
Yeah.
And 90% or almost 80% of it goes into payment and remunerations, etc. How is government still going to enforce this agenda? I mean, from government ideas of implementing, improving our educational system.
You are quite right that if you look at the national budget, the education ministry takes on the average 30%. So there are about 23 ministries. One ministry alone is taking 30%, 1/3 of the budget. It should tell you that we prioritize education in this country. We are doing on the average 6.2% of GDP, way above the UNESCO target, the UNESCO minimum target. And I think that is good for our country, it's good for our future, that we continue to improve in our expenditure in the education subsector. You are right that with 80% of GOG funding going to remuneration, there seems to be little left for capital investment, your textbooks, your teacher learning materials, and other items. That's why we have tried over the years to refocus the GET Fund. The Ghana Education Trust Fund has come in handy to support. So it's playing a very important complementary role. And if you look at a lot of our interventions, the school under trees, we use GET Fund resources. Some of the school uniforms, the textbooks intervention, we use GET Fund resources. So GET Fund has come in handy to help us. On the average, you can expect that 2.5% of VAT every year will give you about 700 to 800 million Ghana cedis. And so it's quite a useful...
Yes, but Honorable G, on paper, everything sounds nice. But on the ground, we still have a deficit of, 60,000 teachers deficit in the basic level. We also have 64% of currently of pupils who cannot read properly and write properly. You've told me nice things on paper, but on the ground, that is not the reality.
These aspects of things you are mentioning have not been discussed earlier. So if you want us to look at the teacher deficit, we can look at it. As a country, yes, in terms of trained teachers, when you see those teacher deficit statistics, it's referring to trained teachers. But we have we normally do well to fill the gap with untrained teachers. But that deficit statistics is ranged between 40 to 60,000, depending on which source you're looking at. So you're quite right, but it's not that you have a total gap. We have untrained teachers who are filling that gap. But that's why we have carried out some reforms in our colleges of education. We are now training more teachers than we used to be doing 2 years, 3 years, 4 years ago. We have increased enrollment at the colleges of education by 63%. We've abolished the quota system, so now the colleges of education, all 38 public colleges of education, can now admit at full capacity. So we are now training more trained teachers now than we have ever done as a country. Yeah, but also research
also has found that 20% of these graduates don't go directly into the educational sector. Creating more. How is government going to solve? Because there are other areas of interest. The banking sector, the 20 to 25% move into that. So definitely you will have that deficit.
As for the attrition rate, we have quite a high attrition rate. Teachers want to change jobs, just as it happens everywhere. Sometimes you've worked in the private sector for many years. I don't think you have always been at one place. There is always mobility. People want to move around. But what you do is that you then increase your pool. And that's what we have done. We've increased the pool so far as supply of teachers is concerned. And we are also working assiduously to make sure that we improve on incentives and welfare of teachers so that we can have more of them we can have more of them retained in the system. Having said that, I must also point out that the point you make about reading stats and the fact that some 60% you say at the basic level cannot read or write. You first of all have to disaggregate all those statistics. There are lots of statistics flying out there which we contest. At the primary level, the preschool level, we have indicated that the policy is that teach the child in the mother tongue. So if a researcher goes to that school from outside and is insisting that the child should speak English at kindergarten P1, He may not be able to speak English, he may
right.
not to read English. And then you go and, put in your research report that 60% can't read or write. But we are not bothered because we know that this is a tried and tested methodology. By the time the child gets to P3 and you are doing the smooth transition into English, full-time English, that child picks up faster. It's been confirmed. This research has been confirmed that when the children start education in their mother tongue, they are able to pick up
faster other languages.
So be rest assured. I must indicate, though, that we are not saying that we are up to the standards that we expect. We are not yet who we think that there's more room for improvement, and that's why we continue to improve on the systems. But let us not run down our system. For 3 consecutive years, we have won the WAEC best results for our students at the second
even with all the failures and everything.
Yes, in the whole of the West Africa sub-region, and our students continue to do well globally. We pick up reports from our embassies across the world, the performance of our students who had their basics here. There must be something good about our foundation, which we shouldn't discard. Right.
Honorable, again, a lot of talk shows has happened, a lot of symposia, a lot of seminars in getting our educational reform. We have the NDPC also back to also contribute. How far are we taking our educational system? I mean, I don't think next year we're going to have another 2-year or 3-year SSS, or every government comes in and there's a change. What is the way forward? Based on these seminars that has been held, and I know you participated in a lot of them.
Ghana's educational system has gone through a number of reforms, as you have rightly indicated. The verdict is still out there whether all of the reforms were necessary at the time that they were carried out. We have inherited the last reform, the last major reform being the Professor Anamwa Mensah committee report. We intend to stay true to the recommendations of that reform. We think that it's time for stability and consistency. We are not going to carry out a new reform. What we have been doing so far is that we continue to assess every year. We have a strong MS system, which is the Education Management Information System data, which we collect from the ground. We do curriculum evaluation, assessment of pedagogy, and all these key factors. And then we see where we can tweak, where we can improve. For example, we've noticed that our school pupils are not doing very well in math and science. They're finding it tough. So we have put in an intervention with Professor Anku, and we are changing the methodology. We want math teachers to make math more exciting, more interesting to students. So these are things that we have been doing. But I want to assure you and the general public that we are not going to carry out any major reform. We have committed ourselves to staying true to the last reforms that were carried out, because Ghana has had not less than 7 major reforms since independence, and we think that we've had enough. We should rather invest in quality and invest in zero tolerance against teacher absenteeism, put in more teaching and learning materials, incentivize teachers, and we believe that once we do that, we can get the results that we are looking
and that
for.
drives me to the quality of education. A lot of teachers don't want to go to the rural areas and other places. There is no incentive for them, as you mentioned. But then we need to improve our education, because in the urban area we see a lot of improvement. You can't send an IT system to a rural area with light-offs, etc. So, I mean, how are we going to match the gap? Because it's really, really, really open. I mean, those in the urban areas, even those in the public and the private school, there's a serious, there's a great difference. How is government going to match? I mean, how is your ministry going to match all these?
It's an important question you've asked. You see, we must understand that education cannot thrive in isolation. The success of education, success of everything else. so that if we are able to expedite development and improve on the level of development in our small towns, our villages, the rural setting, education also automatically improves. And that's why if you look at our scores, you look at even our performance generally, over the years I think that we have been improving. So once you have our districts taking development more holistically, you would observe that it will have a bearing on the number of teachers who want to come and teach in these districts, availability of bungalows for housing, transport services, and what have you. So that's why this ministry is part of the President's Decentralization Committee, with the President himself chairs. And the thinking is that we should integrate our development agenda and work assiduously towards full decentralization. We want to reach a period where even teachers are hired at the district level. Right. That way, you can you are better off in monitoring them, in supervising, in also addressing payroll challenges, because you sit in Accra managing payroll, you don't know if really that teacher who you are paying at Bumpugu Yoyo is really there and teaching. So we are looking at that matter in terms of total district development, pure devolution and decentralization, and we say that it has a bearing with not only education, with healthcare, with the transport systems,
right.
and whatever.
And you see, and it's interesting, Honorable, that especially with that proper supervision, most of these policies don't achieve anything. The inspectorate division of the ministry, from public point of view, are not doing their best to inspect teacher absenteeism, the quality of it. It is not just the accessibility, constructing schools, filling in with pupils or students, the quality of education. How is the inspectorate division working on it? Because there's a serious deficit there too.
I'm happy you asked about the inspectorate division. It's been one of our cardinal concerns since we got to this ministry. We have been on quite a bold program to revamp the National Inspectorate Board. We have a new chief executive. We have bought at least 150 brand new pickups for them for monitoring across the country. For the first time, we noticed that, you see, if you say that you want to wait to such a time that they will have full-time staff, how many staff really can you employ to monitor over 60,000 schools in Ghana? Because you have about 22,000 basic schools, primary schools, you have 13,500 junior high schools, you have 840 senior high schools, and then the other private schools that also are the responsibility of government in terms of maintaining standards and supervising. So what we did was that for the first time we posted hundreds of national service personnel to the inspectorate board, and they were taken through a training session. They were taught what to look out for when you go on inspection, how to prepare your report, and where to send your report, and all of that. So it's a stopgap measure whilst we wait for the time that we can recruit more permanent staff to staff the National Inspectorate Board. So these are the things we have done to strengthen the Inspectorate Board. We've bought them pickups, we've got them more than 600 national service personnel, and we believe that the impact is telling now. The last time I was reading their report, they have been able to visit for the 2014-2015 academic year. Already they have visited 1,350 schools across the country. So we are quite impressed with the progress that we are making with inspection.
Our education is purely geared towards the cognitive development of the child. How practical can the Ghanaian child come up from tertiary and be practical? Now that we want to combine the Polytechnic to a university level, this is a big confusion.
Yes,
it is not a confusion, Honorable.
No, it is not. It's not a confusion at all. You see, we should appreciate that every educational system you want to be sure that your education system can produce the theoreticians, the researchers, who all they do is to develop concepts, is to make advancements in knowledge. Then you should also be able to produce, in equal measure, the practical-oriented people who may even take the theory and run with it. So your ability to have these two aspects very strong determines your success, even as a country that wants to develop, that wants advancement. So it is not one or the other. You want a strong theoretical system, strong theoretical research base, and you also want a strong practical base. I think that where we have been lacking as a country, which we have admitted, is that the practical aspect of things have been quite challenged, more challenged than the theoretical aspect. So we have had very successful traditional universities who continue to do so well. As I speak to you, there are about 10,399 foreign students in our traditional universities from 60 different countries. There must be something good here. That's why all these people want to come here to study.
Well, that could be challengeable, Honorable.
But
that could perhaps instability in those various places. Our education may attract them. The peaceful nature of
but is that not positive? Is that not positive for you?
Positive, but not looking at the education aspect.
It's positive for you. And Ghana is not the only stable country. They could have gone elsewhere, but they chose to come to Ghana.
But the stability also allows them in.
Yeah, but Ghana is not the only stable country in the world. So I am ready for that debate. The point I was making, however, about the conversion of the polytechnics to technical universities is that it's because we've identified that we need to pay more attention on practical education, technical education, hands-on education, so that it's not only cognitive, but your practical orientation is right. We believe that all of the stigmatization and the way technical education was becoming underrated and being seen as second-rated and all of that will be addressed by this conversion. So we have set September 2016 as the period which the polytechnics will have to prove that they are now ready, they've met the standards, and they want to be allowed to be converted into technical university. So it's going to be on a polytechnic by polytechnic basis. We are adopting the German model, which has been globally well accepted as the best technical education model. And so we are taking steps, real steps. We are going backwards even to look at basic school, our workshops, our technical schools, how to re-equip them and to make sure that there is a general rebranding of technical and vocational education, so that it's not seen as, if you opt for a technical school option, it doesn't mean that you are less intelligent. It doesn't mean that your future is less brighter than the person who is on the traditional, conventional, theoretical path. So we want a good mix of the products that we churn out, and we are working at it.
Policy into action. How soon can we get this materialized?
As you do know, F-Cube is not only a policy which was formulated by a government, but it also found its way in our 1992 Republican Constitution, which should tell you how serious the people of this country consider.
I have the distinguished honor for our guest for this program to have with me Honorable Deputy Minister of Education, Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa, is here this evening. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
We are glad to have you on Policy Desk.
I'm happy to be on.
And viewers, this program is proudly sponsored by GN Bank, the People's Bank. With GN Bank, GN Bank provides a lot of money.
Just around the time FQ was coming into force, we did not attain free compulsory, we did not have universal basic education in our country. Now we have met that target, MDG 2. We have managed to keep our children in school. The transition rate is now quite impressive. We have, over the years, successive governments have introduced
remittance services, Western Union, MoneyGram, RIA, in all its branches all over the country. With GN Bank, you can start with just 50 pesos. You can open an account with just 50 pesos and you can just start an account. This program is also proudly sponsored by GN Investment, Gold Coast Fund Management, and Coconut Grove Hotels, offering you members worth repeating Accra, Elmina, and Obuasi. Honorable, welcome.
Thank you.
How has government taken the FQ?
Free, compulsory, universal, basic education. I would posit that to be fair to the implementation of F-Cube, we have made a lot of giant strides. First of all, we have been recognized as a country that has achieved the Millennium Development Goal 2 that was set up by the United Nations 15 years ago. 15 years ago, before